everyone, and welcome to Melbourne Career Expo 2024. This is the session on top 10 return to work strategies. My name is Sue Ellson, and I brought along a copy of one of my 5 books, and the person who asks the best question will get the book. So hopefully this will be an engaging and interactive presentation for you. So by way of background, my career started 6 days after my last Year 12 exam at Westpac in Adelaide. I spent 11 years working in a bank in lots of different roles, moved to Melbourne, got a job, found out I was pregnant and got sacked. So basically I haven't had a real job since 1994, and I do a lot of different things. And I'm a member of lots of professional associations, and I also do a lot of voluntary work. So a lot of the work today is voluntary, and I also do other presentations and things for people as well. So this session is really going to focus on returning to work. So I'm not assuming that you've had an illness or something terrible happen to you. I'm just saying if you haven't been working for a while and you're looking at changing careers or coming into something, then this is an option for you. And all of the slides are able to be downloaded and sent to you. So all you need to do is scan that QR code. It will send an email to me, and then I'll send you these slides and the other presentations that I'm doing at the Career Expo. So the first step that I'm going to recommend is to review and reflect. So a lot of the time we always are thinking about the future. We're not necessarily thinking about what we've done in the past. And there's a lot of people in our lives that like to give us advice and suggestions. You know, we're mulling over the idea and we're not sure what we should consider. So I think it's really important that we think about all the skills that we have, because sometimes we forget that there's all these skills that we've accumulated. We're looking at jobs and it gives you a list and there's all these hundreds of things on there and you're thinking, there's no way I can do all of that. So when you look at that job listing or that advertisement or the description, you only have to have about 60% of those skills. You don't have to have 100%. And I know particularly for women, we're very bad at assuming we have to have 99.9% of the skills and experience as well. You don't. You only have to have 60%. Because the reality is, a lot of people apply anyway, whether they've got the skills or not. And you could have 70% of the skills and actually be better off than somebody who doesn't. You can also download a little report which describes how employers are recruiting now. So just a little thing that I heard recently was that employers are checking out where you live, particularly if you're in the lower age bracket, because they don't want you to say, I want to work remotely. They want you in the office. So if they see that you live close by, then there's less of an excuse for you to work from home, because the employer wants you to work in the workplace. It's just, you know, something that's happened as a result of the work from home trend. So this report may also be helpful. And as I mentioned in my earlier presentation today, a lot of jobs are not advertised. So the 3 best ways to find those hidden jobs are through networking, referrals, and voluntary work. So the networking means you go out, you speak to people, you get tips and ideas, and then they refer you on to somebody else. And then when you speak to that person, they can refer you again. And that's the way you uncover those jobs that are not necessarily advertised. The other thing you can do is, I believe in working close to home. Like, working from home is one thing, but working close to home is even better. And I was doing some work for some people in the mining industry at the end of last year, and they were being merged into another mining company. And this person said, there's no jobs for me unless I work in the CBD. And I said, well, have you checked? Have you found any employers that are close to where you live? Because he lived way out of Melbourne, and it would have been so much easier if he had a job, because he had a young family, if he worked close to home. So do some research and see if you can find organisations that are close to home as well. It also means that your life is so much easier when you work close to your employer. It's just incredibly easier. So the next step is not to panic, but to prepare, okay? Because the more information that you have prepared, the more ready you're going to be for the job opportunity. And I know a person at the moment who's in a job that she absolutely hates, but I call it golden handcuffs. She's paid well enough that she's not prepared to go anywhere else because she's getting paid well enough. But she needs to update her resume, she needs to network, she needs to apply for jobs, otherwise she's going to be stuck there with these golden handcuffs around her. So part of that process is updating your resume, updating your LinkedIn profile, making sure you've got some recent recommendations and skill endorsements on your LinkedIn profile, and that you've reignited your network. Maybe there's people that you need to reconnect with and let them know that you're looking for something and ask for referrals. The other thing that Melita may have just spoken about is micro-credentials. Now, if you go to your local library, you can get access to LinkedIn Learning for free, and you can do little short courses to update the skills, and it doesn't cost you anything. You can do it in the comfort of your own home. All you've got to do is cope with an American accent, because most of the presentations are done by Americans, but they're very comprehensive and really good videos as well, and they automatically add to your LinkedIn profile straight away, so you've got something up to date and current. There's something called massive open online courses as well. So that's where you can go and do lots of little courses from universities across the world on selected subjects, and that can be helpful. And I'd like to encourage you to develop your personal skills, not just your technical and professional skills, because a lot of people they underestimate the value. So in my early 20s, Westpac said, you need to go and do this assertiveness skills course. And I thought, what? I can say what I feel and I can get, I'm fine. But that would have to be one of the best courses I've ever done. And I've done a lot of courses. So really encourage you to develop your personal skills. And also here in Victoria, you can get access to free TAFE courses as well. Now they may or may not be what you really want to get into. If you haven't been studying for a while and there's no cost, it's close to home, that could be a really great way to update your skills as well. Now, if you say, so I just want any job, well, that's a little bit hard for me to help you with. I need some specifics, because we need to be able to target where you go with your skills and the opportunities that are around. So I think it's really important for you to set some goals. And your goals can be based on your values, strengths and context. So I'm going to start with context first. When my children were young, because I moved from Adelaide to Melbourne, I didn't have childcare. Nobody took after my children during school holidays, sick days, public holidays, whatever. I just didn't have that backup plan. So for during that time, I literally could not have a full-time job. So I did other things, and I did voluntary work, and that was how I got through that time frame. And then when my children were independent, I could resume. So my context changed the opportunities I had available. But then I looked at my values, what is important to me, like I won't be involved in anything to do with gambling, horse racing, drugs, alcohol, I just won't do it. But also the values I can offer. So what can I bring to an organisation? So all of us have some sort of value that we can bring. So think about what your value is that you can bring to someone. And then the final thing is your strengths. So a lot of us are naturally good at something, and then we've had to learn additional skills. So I am, believe it or not, naturally good at accounting, but I hate it. So I'm not going to go and get an accounting job, even though I'm naturally good at it. I've gone out and developed other skills, the things I like doing, and I've used those strengths to get the work that I'm looking for as well. Now, because so many jobs are never advertised, it's really important that you do some research on the types of employers that are out there and get yourself kind of in the door. So I do recommend voluntary work as a strategy, not working for 40 hours a week for free, but if you found someone that you like them and say, look, I'd like you to meet me and me to meet you, is there a way that I can come and do, 10 hours of work for you, and we'll see if we're a good fit for one another, and you can get some skills. So if you've been out of the workforce for a while, you could, do 3 hours a day for 3 days or something like that, and that could be a really good introduction. And to remind you how much you haven't forgotten, because a lot of people assume I've been out of the workforce for a while, I've forgotten a lot of things. That's not the case. And also reconnect with people that you know from the past. So if you've connected with people on LinkedIn, you can download your data and see a list of all the people in your network, their first name, their last name, their current job, current company, and date you connected. So you can make an effort to go through and message all of the people in your network and just say, hi, Sue here, I'm just thinking about going back into the areas of A, B, and C. If you can recommend anyone to me, that would be fantastic. And you can, reconnect and might be able to make a referral for you and get you back into somewhere. You may also, if you haven't used LinkedIn for a while, go back and try and find all the people you used to work with and connect with them as well. That can be helpful too. So technology is a huge aspect of what I do. I use technology to attract aligned gigs, which is why I brought along this book. This book describes how I use technology to get aligned gigs. I think it was Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn who has predicted that by the year 2034, we're not going to have jobs. That's a pretty scary thought. So this book is the precursor to that. We need to get work and find ways of getting work. So if you optimize your resume, so one of the people I was just listening to had a one-page resume, and a lot of people do recommend a one-page resume, but it doesn't include many words on it. So what happens is, if you apply for a job and the applicant tracking system is going through your resume and can't find the words that it needs on it, you will not get to the first interview stage. So I'm quite happy for you to have a resume up to 3 pages long if you want, provided it is easy to scroll through and skim read. But the more words that are in there, the more likely you have of appearing in that first search result, and the more likely you get to go to stage 2. So 2 pages is normally what it is, but if it goes to 3, because you've got a lot of experience, I don't see an issue with that, provided it's scroll friendly. But every careers advisor will tell you something slightly different. So you decide what you want to do there. Now, your LinkedIn profile. I've been on LinkedIn since 2003 and consulting on it since 2008, and I've written 2 books on it. It is my favourite platform. I run a monthly webinar, and I've done 35 of those as well. So the number 1 field on your LinkedIn profile is just under your name. It's called your headline. And I have a formula that I recommend for your headline. It starts off with your label. So when I was Sue Everything, people knew I could do a lot of things, but I wasn't getting any work. So when I said I'm an independent LinkedIn specialist, people remembered that she does something with LinkedIn, and then that got me more work. So I start off with independent LinkedIn specialist, and then I add in all the other words after it that I would like to be found for. So there's 3.5 lines worth of words in there, and at the end I put a little emoji in there of a dancing lady, because I don't want to look like I'm a try-hard, but I do want people to know that I have lots of energy, because I'm a woman of a certain age, and we've got to convince people that we're still active and interested and all that kind of thing. So making sure that your headline has got as many keywords as possible in it and no words repeated. I saw somebody who had engineer written 3 times. You don't get any more value out of writing engineer 3 times. Just write it once. The words at the beginning are the most important, and then write the words after that there. Now, when you apply for a job, you can normally attach a document, and on LinkedIn you can only attach 1 document. And so a lot of people only attach their resume, but their cover letter is nowhere to be seen. So what I recommend you do if you're applying for a job on LinkedIn is you create what I call an application document, which is on the first page. It is the cover letter for that job, and the rest of the document is your actual resume. So when the person opens up your application, your one attachment, they can see that you've made it match this particular job. It's not just the same resume that you've used for every other job. And all of my clients who've done that have got interviews because the recruiter has said this person has shown that they're genuinely interested in this job. They haven't just said the same thing to everybody. So create an application document. From now on, they're my 3 favourite words, not I love you. From now on, I invite you to connect with every person you meet. You can do that on your phone, on LinkedIn, and that builds the size of your network and allows you to appear in more search results. And it also means that you can reconnect with any of these people at a later point as well. You're all welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. And any companies that you're really interested in working for, make sure you are following those companies on LinkedIn and you click the notification bell as well so that their content appears in your newsfeed. Because it's been proven that employers who use LinkedIn Recruiter, they will actually search for applicants who are already following the organisation because it shows that that person is already interested in working there. So follow those companies and then you're more likely to appear in their search results. Any questions here? Yes?
I do. I'm unfamiliar with applying. So, buzzwords within the organisation I work for, but I had an experience recently where it's in their website. So this, what sparked my attention here is your application document. Now there's nowhere that I was able to see that in. So then, if that's the case, then I'm to upload my resume to you for this position that you advertise. Is it then that my application document is, I'm really interested that you into your resume or to business that you're applying for? So then with that, if I may, is this application document your first page, then you have your second page and you start your resume, then your third page is the last part of it?
Yeah. So when you are applying for jobs online and you're using an applicant tracking system and they ask you to type in everything manually, you can't necessarily include an additional attachment. And what you're basically doing is you're filling in all the boxes for them. So you're going to have to copy paste it off of your resume. And that saves them having to process each individual format because, you know, it's allowed them to do it that way. Now, what I was referring to is if you apply for a job on LinkedIn, it allows you to attach one item. So if that being the case, I would suggest that you have your resume that you've already prepared and designed for this particular role, but on the front page you insert another page and you create a cover letter on the front page of that document and you save it as a different file and then you attach that when you apply for the job on LinkedIn.
I just applied directly to their website and followed their formula. So I'm not the person by choice at this stage until I get a better grasp of it. But then how do I go through the way they've set it up and it just says attach resume? So then there isn't any cover letter or anything.
No. But that's why if you put it all in one document, like a Word document, then you can include that cover letter at that time. Yeah. So every organisation does things slightly differently, and that's one of the most annoying processes of applying for a job. The hours you waste answering key selection criteria and creating another login and all of that, it puts a lot of people off the recruitment process.
How real is it, these selection criteria setting that up? start looking and I'm like, I get disheartened because I'm just never in a situation now where I'm like, every time I should be
Yeah. Look, we could argue all day about key selection criteria. I personally find it offensive because I think it's unrealistic to expect somebody to manually do all this work for no pay and just to help them. And there was a policy developed by the Body Shop where before Christmas, and I know this is a very basic job, but they said so long as you can work for 8 hours a day, you can lift 15 kilos, you're happy to work with customers. They had these 4 criteria. It's called an open hiring policy, and if you applied first, second and third, that was the order with which you were brought into the organisation. So if you were first applicant, you would come in. Second applicant, come in. Now that was only for a temporary job, and what they didn't tell you is they also had a policy of firing people quickly. They didn't tell you that. But what I loved about that philosophy is they were prepared to look at you as a person and understand the minimum requirements of the job. And the problem with the key selection criteria is they're looking for the maximum requirements of the job. And, you know, trying to get those can be difficult. So if you find that process uncomfortable, I would say don't try and compete against the people who are doing all of that. Try networking, referrals and voluntary work to get in so people can meet you. They can say, we think you'd be a good fit, we're happy to train you in some additional stuff, and go that way. Because it's very stressful answering those key selection criteria.
So the key selection, if you think I'm okay to move to step into that,
don't be put off by it, because a lot of people won't do it. So if you are prepared to do it, again, you know, you've potentially got a better chance there as well. I'm going to have to move on because we've only got 45 minutes, and I want to get through the slides first, but I'll come back to you next. Okay. One of the things that's important with LinkedIn is it prefers people who are already in a job. Right? So, or even a resume application process. It prefers someone who's in a job. So from the date your job finished until now, you can say that you've been doing career research. And so it fools the system into believing that you're currently working. And when somebody reads it, they'll say, oh well, you know, she's just doing research, but it helps you be found. So I do encourage you to do that. And think about your overall value and talk to some of the other values that you bring to an organisation and talk about those in your achievements. You only need 60% competency to apply for a job. You don't need 100%. So don't say, oh, there's 3 things I'm missing on this key selection criteria, I'll throw in the towel. One of my clients went for a job at the National Gallery of Victoria, and they asked her if she spoke a language other than English. Now she didn't, but I knew that she had a hearing impediment. So I suggested that she said, I only speak English, but I can also lip read. Now you imagine somebody seeing that job application and thinking, wow, that's a great thing for an art gallery tour guide to be able to lip read. It made her memorable, and of course she got the job as well. So think about things that you can include that demonstrate how you're a little bit unique and have got this extra value to offer. Also remember that we're moving away from sexy job titles and fabulous organisations to a skills-based recruitment process. So any time you can develop your skills and you can showcase those, the better that is. And also, I want you to think a little bit more broadly about whether maybe 2 part-time jobs could be as good or better than 1 full-time job. Because some people who are at the higher level of skills, a lot of organisations cannot necessarily afford them for 5 days a week, but they could afford them for 2 days a week. And then you could perhaps have 2 part-time jobs, and it's worth asking an employer for that. The other thing I've noticed with people who've spent some time out of the workforce is they get a little bit anxious about their value. They lose their confidence, they believe that everybody else is smarter than them, that they, you know, they've lost their mojo or whatever it is. And I'm here to say that's not the case. You've just got to, you know, adjust into that process again. And I don't want you to think you can only go for the boring jobs. I'd like you to still think you can go for the good jobs as well. You can do those little micro credentials and bring yourself up to speed. Also, sometimes it might be an organisation that can't afford you, but would be great experience. So maybe there's some additional things you can negotiate. Maybe they offer discounted products or services, flexible work hours, work from home, extra leave, extra holidays. You know, there might be some other benefit. Or you might be able to come in and say, look, I'll work for 3 months so you can see what I'm like, but can we have a discussion after that and renegotiate the options going forward as well? So that might be another way. Another person I know has their e-tag given to them so they can go on the freeway, and that saves them a lot of time travelling to and from work, and it's a tax deduction for the employee. So, you know, there's lots of other little things that you might be able to negotiate. Even having a uniform saves you the cost of clothing. So, you know, these are all options. When I talk about how to ask for a promotion or pay rise, I'll be on the stage at 2 o'clock talking about that. I also like to remind you that if you're going in to work somewhere and you say you want $1,000 more in salary, you've got to be able to show your employer that you're giving them at least $3,000 to $7,000 worth of value for that, because they've got a lot of operating costs and so on and so forth. So if you say to yourself, look, I'm worth this much, but the company is only this size, then you can say, well, what's a reasonable salary in that range? A bigger company, it might be more. And what you can do is you can also check the market rates for your particular job title on the myfuture.edu.au website. So if you're not sure what you should be earning, you can go there and get the latest rates and see also the demand and the forecast demand for that type of role. The next thing I encourage you to do, because job search is very time consuming, don't try and spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you'll go nuts. But if you can spend 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, that means you're still doing something every day. The rest of the time you can go to the beach, visit the library, whatever you like, but 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and do a lot of different things. So not just looking for jobs online and hitting send, but networking, going to events, talking to people, you know, going to information sessions, making coffee meetings, whatever. Do lots of different things. But be clear on your goals to 1 or 2 things you're really trying to get, and try and find some people who will support and encourage you. I've got a few friends in my network. Whenever I'm feeling a bit miserable, I'll just message them and we'll have a little chat. Automatically I feel better. So, you know, it can be difficult sometimes. Also, people who can educate you. Maybe there's some university lecturers or friends in training organisations who might be able to make recommendations to you, or in industry. There might be other people who can refer you to somewhere else. And there's also people who keep you accountable. Have you done your 2 hours a day, 5 days a week this week? Please make sure that you thank everyone who has given you some help along the way. That's really important. And also, you can do searches for people that you might want to talk to on LinkedIn, but you can also do something called an advanced Google search, and you can search the entire LinkedIn database for free. So you put your keywords in the top box, and down the bottom it says website, you type in linkedin.com, and then you can do as many searches as you like, and you can find some good people to talk to. The next thing that I talk about, particularly for people who are changing their careers, is I say, I need to ask you how long you think it's going to take for you to change your career. And most people have in their mind about 2 weeks. And I say, okay, well, I would like to suggest we make it 2 years. And they just about die on the spot. And the reason I say this 2 years time frame is because it takes the pressure off you. When you are fighting to get something straight away, you come across as desperate, and people can pick that up. So if you say, in 2 years, I'd like to be in this type of job, we pay this amount of money in this type of company, then you can plot the little steps that will get you there, not expecting it to all happen in 2 weeks and then giving up. So please allow yourself plenty of time. The irony to me telling people that it takes 2 years is most of them get exactly what they want in 3 months when I do that. So it just takes that psychological pressure off of you. But if you've got good strategies in place, you can technically do it in about 3 months. You also need to be prepared to miss out. So when I first moved from Adelaide to Melbourne, I kept coming second in job interviews. Second. And I thought, there's something really wrong here. But when I changed my mind and said, well, hang on a minute, I'm not second. It just wasn't right for me, this one. And I'll have to go somewhere else that is right. And I'm actually really glad I missed out on all those jobs because they wouldn't have been right. And you've just got to say it's their loss and move on. And the other thing to keep in mind is there is professional help available. So doing a job is very different to finding a job. They're completely different skill sets. So once you've learned how to find a job, you can rinse and repeat and do it again. And that's what us career development practitioners help you with. We teach you how to find the job, and then you can use those skills again. So you can go to the CDAA.org.au website. You can choose Find a Career Specialist. You can try and find one that matches with you. You can talk to them first. And I usually recommend you start off with hourly appointments so that you just pay as you go. Always say thank you to anyone who's helped you. And also, when I kept coming second for those job interviews, I always got back to them and I said, thank you for considering me. Please keep my name on file and recommend me to anybody else or something similar. And I got callbacks all the time. So consider that as well. The next thing is to manage your transition. So if you've been out of the workplace for a while and then you finally get a job and you turn up there on day one and you're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and partly terrified, don't expect yourself to be 100% perfect on that day one. Even the person who has all the skills will take 6 months to be unconsciously competent, which means they just come to work and do their job and don't really have to think about it. So allow yourself that 6 months to transition in, and ensure that you have some ongoing support, somebody you can talk to outside of the workplace. You don't want to reveal all your fears and insecurities to your colleagues. Get someone else outside of work you can talk to. And also, 50% of Australians have access to something called an employee assistance program. It's a confidential service. So in your job, you may be able to call this EAP service and ask for extra help, and it doesn't get back to your employer that you've called them. It just lets them know they've used up so many hours. That'll get back to the types of work that's been done. So be prepared to ask for some help. And also, when you start the new job, ask questions. Some people from some cultures are really reluctant to ask questions of their new employer, but it's really important that you do that to clarify things. If you ask the same question every day, there's a problem, but good questions show that you're thinking about your job and you can get further training and support and assistance there. The next thing is to manage your career. Now, I've been a member of a variety of professional associations for many years, and a lot of people will tell you, oh, you spend $300 and you get nothing out of it. Well, it depends. I mean, are you contributing to the association? Do you know all the benefits? What about the insurance that it covers you for? But there's a lot of extra things that you'll get access to if you're a professional member, and it looks good on your resume and LinkedIn profile that you are a professional member. If you are studying, you can join as a student member. So when my daughter was studying animal and veterinary bioscience, she could become a student member of the Australian Veterinarians Association for free. So you get 12 months of membership for free, so that can be really helpful as well. And then some of those associations also offer mentoring programs as well, so even better that you get access to that. Consider peer support, so maybe when you start the job, you might be matched up with someone who can support you in your daily role. There might be on-the-job training, there might be mentoring available internally or externally, and also consider doing some further training or professional development. So when I was working at Westpac, I started a TAFE course. I did 8 subjects of it before I said this has to stop. I was falling asleep in lectures. It was terrible. And so I then went and did a degree, part-time by correspondence. And then when I finished the degree, I've been going to events every single week ever since the year 2000. I have not stopped learning. So I haven't gone back and done formal study, but I go to events every single week to learn and keep myself up to date. So I'd really encourage you to look. There's heaps of opportunities, free and low-cost events around, and constantly build the size of your network, because when things get difficult, it's having a network that will help you get out of it, not just a job. Because with a job, one day you've got a job, and if you lose it, the next day you've got nothing. Whereas if you've got a network, there's always somebody you can talk to and get some help from. Also on LinkedIn, there's a little notification bell next to people and also next to companies. So if there are some people who've been really helpful to you, you can click the notification bell and they'll become your VIPs, I like to call them, and you will see their content more often in your newsfeed, and that will keep you informed as to what those important people are doing, and you can like their stuff, comment on it, and they'll say, thanks for that. Also, it's a good idea to prepare for performance reviews. So don't just assume, oh my goodness, they're going to tell me how bad I am. You need to collect all the evidence of all the fabulous things you've been doing since you started in the job, so that you're ready to discuss, what you've done and what you've achieved. And also, please continue to develop your communication skills. Most people will tell you that the reason they leave a job is because they had a bad manager, which basically boils down to bad communication. And I was recently at the hairdresser, and I asked the hairdresser a question, because like every hairdresser is a personal psychologist after all. They've answered all of our terrible questions. And I said, what do you do when you have to sit here with someone you don't like for 3 hours? So I was getting a hair treatment that took 3 hours. And he said, I look for the good in them. And I thought that was just the most beautiful answer that I've ever heard anyone give me about dealing with a challenge. Look for the good in them. So please keep that hairdresser in mind. So they're the 10 things, and I'll come to your question next. Some additional resources that you might find helpful. I've already mentioned the myfuture.edu.au website. You do need to sign up, but it is free. Salary information, job predictions, there's career quizzes that can help you decide what you'd like to do. There's a finding a job guide on the Victorian Government website. The Jobs Victoria website can give you access to personalised support. Obviously the Career Development Association of Australia, our stand is next door. Come and see us. I've mentioned employee assistance programs. If you've lost your job, you may qualify for outplacement. If that's the case, go to it, because there's bound to be something you'll learn from that. Some recruiters, look for recruiters who've been in the job at least 3 years and who specialise in your area of interest, because they're working on behalf of the employer, not behalf on you as the candidate. So you need to keep that in mind. And then there's education providers. So say you do a course of study, and there'll be somebody in careers there. Now a lot of those careers professionals will say, you need to do another course, so just ignore that. But find out what links they have to industry, or what other programs they can recommend for interns and that sort of thing. They'll often have that information as well. And then there's also local community or council programs as well. Be aware of the advice that you might get from well-meaning friends or family. Lots of people can lead you astray. I had a friend recently who told me I shouldn't do something, and yet every other person I've spoken to says I should go ahead and do it. And that's a poems and poetry podcast. So, sometimes you just got to go out there and do something wildly different. And I do encourage you, don't just listen to the people who say no all the time. That's often their limitations coming across. And if you would like access to an applicant tracking system friendly resume, you can download one for free at sueelson.com/latest offer. I've also run 34 webinars on LinkedIn that you can look at for free. So you can go and check those out. The next one is on how to improve your LinkedIn marketing on the 14th of August. You can also join that one. It goes for 30 minutes. And I'm doing 3 presentations. This is my second one here today. The next one's 2 o'clock at the main stage. But last year I did 3. I've been doing presentations at Careers Expos, I think since 2016. So there's a lot of other ones I've got on my website. You can look at those presentations as well. I'm always keen to hear what's been most helpful to you. And I will now open up to questions. So I'll go to yours first. Yep.
What is your advice for migrants who don't have any job experience, any experience over here? I have had 10 years of experience in IT, but my career break is around 13 years. And I'm doing all the short courses and everything to upskill myself. And I always keep in touch with all my colleagues and friends who are in the same industry. And I know what's happening in Chen, but how do I present it that they can
Okay, so the question is, how do you as a migrant without any local Australian experience start in Australia? So I've been working with new arrivals to Australia since 2001, so I've had a lot of experience with this. And the first thing you need to get is any form of Australian experience. So even if it's not in IT, it could be at the pizza shop, like it really doesn't matter. This is bizarre. I do not understand why Australians feel that you must have Australian experience before you can do an Australian job. Yeah, but there's other ways around this as well. So first of all, get any Australian experience. The second thing is the networking, referrals and voluntary work. So if you can find somebody else on LinkedIn who is from the same country of origin and in the same career, reach out to them and connect and say, hi, I'm looking for my first job opportunity in Australia. Is there, can we connect? And is there anything you can recommend? Because if that person recommends you, they know the similar type of level of experience that you've got. You also need to look for employers and the types of people they have working for them. Do they have a lot of migrants? Or are they all people who look the same as the owners of the business? Because obviously they're not going to be open-minded to it. And the other thing is you can consider doing some work there on an experience basis. So look, say, I'm happy to come in and offer my service to you for 5 hours. I'm happy to do whatever you like. You're close to home. You're the type of business I like to consider working for. Would you be agreeable to that? Now, some of them will say, look, we don't have insurance for that, and it will be complicated, but others will give you a go. So, you've just got to keep asking and keep persisting. Now, the problem is, the longer it goes on, the more desperate you feel. And that comes across. So it's like this red flashing light going off in your head as soon as you turn up, here's someone who's desperate. So you've got to go out with the approach, if this one doesn't work, it's the next. This one doesn't work, it's the next. And you've just got to go with the view that eventually you'll get there. If I have 2 migrants that get off the plane on the same day, with the same skill set, one will always get the job sooner than the other. They're the ones who've got the job skills, or alternatively, they're the ones who prepared before they left their home country. And obviously it's too late for that now, but that's the best way to do it, is to prepare before you come so that you've got those meetings lined up. But the next best time is now. So hopefully some of those strategies will help you. Yeah. But it's a common problem. You're not the first, and it will eventually happen. So please have courage. Yeah. Yep. Thank you for coming up. I definitely cannot hear you from back there.
You just mentioned about the ATS and the tracking system. So has the use of ATS become table stakes? And
Has the user interface become?
ATS
Yeah.
is it absolutely necessary to, has that become a table stakes now, or is it like
Well, the reality is that every employer uses a different recruitment process. So, we can't predict what it is, but I'm not going to recommend a Canva resume because that's very image-based, it's not text-based. So I do recommend a normal Word document with bold and plain text so that everything can be read. No lines, no text boxes, no images, just plain text in a logical order. Yeah.
The second question, sorry about that. Cover letter, should it also be ATS friendly?
Yes. Yeah. So the issue with cover letters is sometimes they're included in the job application query process and sometimes they're not. So anything you have in the cover letter, words, needs to also be in your resume. Because if the resume is the only thing that's scanned and all your keywords were in your cover letter, you're going to miss out. So you've got to make sure it's in both. Yeah.
I was just wondering, what would you recommend to someone who wants to progress in their career, maybe a little bit forward and basically the circumstances just to get back into the books and not something that cannot really progress in their career? How to look at that?
So are you saying that you went for a job and it didn't work and then you had to go back to what you were doing previously, but you'd still like to move forward?
Yeah, so basically I used to work in management and not basically just to get some job.
Right, yeah. Yeah, okay. All right.
Since then, I was able to go back into that.
Yeah. Look, the problem is that a lot of people, when they're applying for a job, the first thing checking you out is either computer or a 20-year-old. And neither of those have experience and don't understand the value of your management experience. So again, I'm going to suggest you go back to networking and referrals as your main strategy and explain to them, look, I can't sit at home just waiting for the next opportunity. So I have this job, but what I'm doing to get back into management is I've done this short course, I meet with 3 people every week, I've, built my network out, I approach 10 people a week on LinkedIn. There's all these other things that I do to get myself back into that management position. You also need a little bit of encouragement because it can be very demoralising to go from being in management from 0 to 0. I mean, that's a difficult thing to do and to build yourself back up again. So just remember that any step you take in the future direction is a positive thing and, give yourself a pat on the back for doing all of those. And if you're persistent, it will eventually happen. The other thing to remember is we've got to be able to convey our value in a meaningful way. So if people don't understand the value, it's going to be very difficult for them to appreciate it. So in your case, I'd suggest you have that current job you're doing listed on your LinkedIn profile, but also do career research with the management role above it, because you could list 2 concurrent jobs. And then that way, the first thing people will see is that you're going for that career research rather than that, job for now that you're doing in the meantime. But well done on keeping the wolves from the door and not just burning through all your savings and, just being out there. That's really good. Yeah. Oh, right, okay. Well, again, use the career research as well. And don't be afraid to do a job for now. I've done plenty of jobs for now over the years and, it stops you getting anxious, which is a good thing. And gets you out of the house and dressed every day and all those kind of things too. Yeah.
Curious question, can you get job shopping ran out for yourself?
Yes.
And not knowing that not going to work,
Yeah, look, this is why you really need to develop a strategy, and it could be time to ask for some professional help, because there might be something in your strategy that's letting you down. If you are getting interviews, it means your application process is working. If you're not getting interviews, it means whatever you're using to apply for the job is not working. Secondly, if you're getting interviews but not the job, it means you're not the right fit for that organisation. And thank goodness you didn't get the job. But they will tell you, oh no, you didn't have enough experience, or there'll be some other stupid reason. Well, why did they bother interviewing you? I mean, that's just a lie. They're just saying that so you don't sue them. So I just think, yeah, you've got to develop a job search strategy and then work out what's reasonable to do and what's not. And for another person, she was not well and she was doing all this voluntary work, but she had enough income to keep going. So I said, why don't you just do your voluntary work for a while? Like, you know, just take some time out and when you're ready again, approach it again. Now, I do not recommend that you restart in December, January, because that's when the market is dead. So if you're going to take a break, definitely take it then, because not as much happens at that time of the year. I'll let someone else ask a question if there is one.
What kind of a value is more important in a job? Can you elaborate on the
Yes.
value?
Yes. So it depends on the employer. So, you know, if they just want somebody to turn up, do the job, you know, it's obviously the technical skills. If it's a different employer, they might really need you to fit in and work with everybody, and the technical skills are not as important. So it really depends on the job. But again, if you do an index of your skills and you know what all your skills are, then you can use the My Future website and you can say, well, you know, do a career quiz and try and find the things that would be most aligned with that. So you can do some assessments.
Are you saying that skill and value is the same thing?
Not necessarily, yes, yeah. It's a good question to ask. A skill obviously is, you know, I can type and I can type really fast. Okay, great. But what am I typing? Like if I'm just typing a lot of mistakes, there's no value in that. But if I can just go to the computer, type what needs to be done, get a letter out, and, you know, nothing else needs to be done, that's value. So, yeah, think about it in terms of how is the employer going to get value out of you, and it needs to be 3 to 7 times what they're paying you in rough figures. Yeah. That's a great question. I think I'll give you the one. A trainer, yeah. Well, again, I think we all need to have a digital presence because 75% of people will Google you before a job interview and 95% before an offer. So conveying all those skills and values on your LinkedIn profiles is going to work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. How are we going for time? 23. Well, one last question. Yes?
You mentioned about the change, like, you know, it takes at least a 6 months subconsciously to think. But when we are looking at a contract role, sometimes it's the whole contract role is 6 months or things like they expect you to start performing on the day one. Sometimes it's quite explicitly written. Like how do we kind of like so that people want to return to work for just permanent roles, or what do you suggest?
Okay, so the question is about permanent versus contract and getting anything and starting from day one. Look, I always believe it's better to go from a job to another job than from no job to a job.
Yeah.
So if you can get some job to begin with, I mean, that's a key component of this. And also, once you've got a contract, quite often it'll lead to another contract, so that can be helpful. I don't believe anybody, even with 100% of the skills, can be perfect on day one because every organisation is slightly different. So try not to be too hard on yourself and don't assume that they expect you to be perfect on day one. But you do need to have at least 60% competency, and I always say I'm prepared to do additional training in my own time if there's anything else I need to upskill on, so that people have a sense, well, she'll do the best she can, but if there's anything she doesn't, you know, she's going to take responsibility for that. So long as you make it clear that you're willing to do that little extra, yeah, just go for it. Yeah, don't be anxious. The worst they can do is say no. And the worst that can happen is after a month they let you go, but at least you've got a month worth of new connections and new experience. I was asked to do a training course, and it turns out I would be educating people about gambling, and I asked so many questions in the training they decided they would not hire me because they could tell I was really opposed to gambling. So I've missed out on lots of opportunities. It's not the end of the world. And being sacked when I was pregnant took me 6.5 years to stop being angry about that. But it's led to all these amazing opportunities I would never have done if it didn't happen to me. So you will be stronger, you will get there. You've just got to be persistent and use the techniques that work. That's really important. You could all, if you scan, where was it, the first one? This code, I'll send you the notes and also the details from the other presentations. And you're welcome to join me at 2 o'clock from the main stage as well. So thank you for coming to the Melbourne Career Expo. I hope you get lots of value out of it. Don't remember to connect with everyone you meet. You can do that if you've got LinkedIn on your phone via the search box and pressing the little dots on the side. You'll get a little QR code and you can connect with the people that